All right, good evening, everybody. I finally was able to get online. It's been a rough time to get online these days, but I'm here. Happy Saturday. Now, normally I don't do live streams on Saturday, but I don't know if you can hear, but I am nursing a cold. So normally I'd be out enjoying a Saturday evening with my friends, and they're all out having a good time, and I'm at home nursing a cold. I don't have a cold. It's kind of on the tail end, but you can hear it's in my voice, and it's pretty gnarly. So, hello, everybody. All right. So, also, I want to talk about many, many things. There's so much going on here in China and in the world, and it'd be cool to talk to you all about it. Hey, what's up, dude? How are you? Anyways, I haven't posted any videos lately because I haven't been traveling. And when I'm not traveling, I tend to do other videos that have a little bit more substance, awful lot more time, and a lot more work to do. So I'm working on that right now. In fact, I filmed one tonight, another one that's in the can. And so in about 3 weeks, I'll be out and starting my walkabout, going back to America. I'm going to go to Japan, Thailand, and Cambodia, and then back to China as well. So I'm going to be I'll be gone for most of the summer and filming it and exploring some amazing places, especially in America. I'll be spending 3 weeks in America and doing a road trip to up north to South Dakota and Wyoming. That should be really cool. But if you're out there, say hi. If you have any questions about the topics today, I'd love to chat with you guys. So it's too early for me to go to bed, so I'm wide awake. I don't have anything to watch on my TV, so I thought I would chat with you all fine people tonight. Like I said, there's lots to talk about. We could talk about business. We could talk about English teaching. There's a couple of things here about tourists reveal the friendliest and rudest countries they've visited. I think this is going to be an interesting article to chat about, How are you from Boston? Jack Lee, I love Boston, man. Are you from Boston? Great town. So much great history there. And, I'm a big baseball fan, and, I love my Dodgers, and I have gone to Wrigley Field, but I have not gone to Fenway. That is on my bucket list one day to go to Fenway. But I love Boston. I've been there once, and I was there for a little less than a week, but 5 or 6 days, and I had a blast. It was a really great town. Okay, so let's get into it. Mind talking about some sensitive subjects? I think I know what you're referring to. It depends on the subject. I am not afraid to talk about sensitive subjects. There are some things that I won't say because I'm not allowed to, and I know to keep my mouth shut. So I do have my opinions on things, but mostly I have my projections. And if you have a question, I'll entertain it. That sound all right? Okay. So until then, great. God, you really want me to talk about some sensitive subjects, huh? Okay, what are they? All right, so while I'm waiting for you to write your questions, let's talk about the tourists reveal the friendliest and rudest countries they've visited. This is by Naomi Leach from Panda Guides. There's a number of English news aggregators here in China, and I get a lot of this stuff from them. Panda Guides is one of them. Another one is Job Tuts Daily. There's That's One Joe, which is a great one. A lot of them are aggregated from other news sources throughout the world. Oh, when I go, shoot, I'm going nuts here. There we go. Hopefully the VPN works. I've been having a lot of trouble with keeping a connection lately. Rudeness, like beauty, can be a Let's try this again. Rudeness, like beauty, can be a bafflingly subjective. Wow, that's a tongue twister, right? Bafflingly subjective. What's friendly to one man may be deemed overly familiar to another, just as keeping a respectful distance is polite in some societies, but seen as frosty in others. Travelers navigating this cultural minefield have taken to an online forum to share which countries they think are the friendliest and the rudest to tourists. With insights on places including Russia, where smiles were apparently lacking, Italy deemed very friendly, and England reckoned by one user to be either very rude or very polite. I thought this was an interesting topic to talk about because I am very, very eager to get on the road and start traveling again. Okay. Yep, dude, 264. My VPN doesn't work very well. Yeah. I am a grad student. I like Red Sox along with many other sports teams. I am from China. Jack, have I talked to you before, dude? Dude, your English is declining. Yeah. I blame my cold. Okay, so I got a frog in my voice tonight. That's one of the great things I love about English. As you guys know, I'm an English teacher, and I love English, and I love teaching it. And I feel as though I have a very large vocabulary, but English is so big. I mean, it's so gigantic that it is almost impossible to master. So you're always chasing a mastery that will never come true, and that's what I really dig about the language. So I learn something new every day, and I'm always working to improve myself, as most of you do. Imbibing, good to see you, dear. How are you? How's everything? Did you take your trip, or have you moved yet? I'm sorry, you're moving from Xi'an, right? Was it Hangzhou that you're going to? That should be. Those are two cities. I hope to go to Xi'an this summer, maybe September. But I'm only going to spend maybe a day or two in the city because I want to go around the surrounding areas and do a lot of hiking. That whole area of China is supposed to be really beautiful, and I'm looking forward to it. That'll probably be mid-September. I haven't finalized those plans yet. Okay, so the rudest countries. What do you think is the rudest country for tourists to visit? One Quora poster found a smiling approach didn't get him far when asking for directions in Russia. I've been to Russia, and I think Russians are very friendly. I had a great time in Russia. I have a lot of great stories from Russia. Don't go to Xi'an in the summer, way too crowded. No, I'm going to go in September after school starts. So, okay. While smiling may be a common way to greet someone in the US, in Russia, it could be interpreted as insincere, discovered Chris Kaluwartz, interesting name, when traveling on Moscow's subways. He wrote on Quora, "When I wanted to ask directions, my first impression was that nobody was willing to help me. When I tried to make contact, nobody smiled and looked really helpful or approachable. Only later I learned that in Russia, smiling at strangers can be interpreted as making fun of them." That's interesting. I never heard of that. I was in St. Petersburg, and I found it to be an awesome city. Yeah, I know. Someone just told me I need to go to the drugstore and get some medicine. I know, dear, I know. I have some medicine. I've been taking it. I'm all loopy right now. All right. If you've been to Russia, let me know. Okay. Went on a trip to Xining last week. Videos are coming out soon. Moving to Hangzhou in September, so I'll not see you here in Xi'an. Might go to Huashan. Yeah, that's where I want to go. Huashan. It's been on my bucket list ever since before I came to China. There's certain places. Guilin I did already, and I can't wait to go back. Then there's Zhongshan, which I've already done. There's Yunnan, which is like Shangri-La, Dali, Lijiang, which my lady friend is at this weekend right now, making me very jealous. And then Huashan. So I'm gonna hit that up this summer, maybe. Okay, the art of queuing is something that can get lost in translation the world over. Travelers in China, a country where residents are adept at dealing with crowds, have complained about encountering personal space invasion on a daily basis. That is true in some parts of China, in the rural parts of China. Because it is an overcrowded place, you really have to assert yourself and get in front of people. And when you're waiting in line, if there is a line, when you're waiting in line, you have to stand right behind the person or someone's going to just cut right in front of you. It happens to me all the time. And as a foreigner, I just kind of shrug my shoulders and don't make a big deal out of it. I might give them a dirty look, but I don't make a big deal out of it. It is getting better. In the big cities, people queue up just fine. Again, it's mostly the rural areas I find that happens. Even like when I first came here a few years ago, you go to McDonald's, somebody queues up, they just kind of throw their money at, the cash register. But that's all changed in just a very short amount of time. It seems as though people are getting much, much better about that here. USA is the only foreign country I visited. Most of Americans are nice. Some old ladies are very warm-hearted, though I got robbed. You got robbed several times? Well, I've never been robbed. In fact, I've only been robbed here in China. I got robbed once here in Guangzhou. But and that's not saying anything. Guangzhou is a very safe place. It was more of a robbery of convenience than anything. But wow, you got robbed in China. That sucks several times. Yeah, and in my experience, Americans are extremely nice and friendly, no matter where I go. Pro tip, surname Lee has multiple versions, yeah. People from mainland usually go with Lee, whereas people from places like Hong Kong or Taiwan go with Lee. They're referring to the exact same surname. Ah, I didn't know that. I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee. Oh, me too. Shoot, I grew up watching Bruce Lee movies, man. In fact, I got a video on my channel about Bruce Lee Paradise Park, which is not far from here. It's in Shunda. And you can go to his ancestry house. I think it's his grandparents' house. It's a big, beautiful park and fascinating place to visit. There's a great museum, Bruce Lee Museum there. Because I studied at Notre Dame, and I visited Chicago a lot. Okay. What's your comment about U.S. banning Huawei? Security threat or just envy? I don't know. I honestly don't. Everyone's talking about it here in China. The Huawei thing is a big deal. I don't know enough about it, honestly. When I first heard it was about security issues, I didn't buy it. The American economy is so much different than the Chinese economy when it comes to protectionism. They really need an excuse of something to project to the world in order to ban certain things. So that's what was going through my mind when it first happened. I honestly think it'll backfire on America, the banning of Huawei. I mean, if honestly, what this is going to do when it comes to this, I believe that Huawei, who was already starting to develop their own operating system, this will just accelerate their operating system development, not just for phones, but for computers and servers. And I think it'll backfire and take away valuable market share from, established companies like Windows and iOS, iOS, excuse me. That's my personal opinion. I think it's kind of when I hear trade war tensions going like this all the time, I think it's moving in the wrong direction. Both countries. I think that both countries, and I honestly believe America needs to step up and be the first one to say, hey, let's move towards the right direction because they started it. But I think we should be moving more towards each other rather than apart. And if we come together more, I think it would be more prosperous for both countries. If we stay apart, it's just going to make things more difficult for everybody. That's my personal opinion. All right, hasta luego. I am vibing. Good to talk to you. So I'm not smart enough to talk about the trade war completely, nor is it my place. I just wish it wasn't happening. I honestly wish. I know that there are better solutions out there than what's taking place, and I wish those solutions were being explored more. So that's just me. Okay, so Coward said, at first we left, this is about China. Coward said, at first we left some space in between the person in front of us and ourselves, only to have people jump the queue and get in line in front of us. When we made them aware of the fact we were in line, they apologized and moved to the back of the line. It appeared as rude, however, the first few days this happened to us. Insisting it was a fluke, tourists who have repeatedly visited destinations. Oh, wait, we'll talk about that. So that is true. And I don't think it's necessarily a fault of the people doing it. It's the person behind the counter who allows it. The clerk who services somebody who obviously jumped the line, and they should just say, hey, you go back in the line like they do in every other country. Insisting it wasn't a fluke, tourists who have repeatedly visited destinations such as Italy claim they were always met with friendliness. Oh, that's great. I haven't been to Italy, so I think that would be cool. Holly Ann Blewett said, the worst place I've been in terms of hospitality and tolerance towards tourists would be France. Hands down, Paris was the worst. That's interesting, considering Paris is one of the biggest. I think it was the largest tourist city in the world. I think Bangkok is now, but again, I haven't been to Paris, so I don't know. From many in the forum, France topped their list as the rudest destination in the world. Very interesting. Describing her experiences in Paris and in Avignon, I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. Naomi Baker said, more than once I've been treated rather shabbily in the big train stations by ticket agents and security guys and the information desk. Oh, that's unfortunate. If you've been to France, let me know if that's the case. It'd be interesting. Also complaining about his experiences on public transit, Kurt Thurston said, I asked for directions in the metro while visiting there with my wife. I asked in my best French which direction a certain exit was and ended up being searched and patted down and had to empty all my pockets because I had an asthma inhaler in my front pocket. Wow, that sucks. I guess they're a little touchy right now in France. Concurring, Holly and Bluet added, the worst place I've been in terms of hospitality and tolerance towards tourists. Oh, no, we already talked about that. Oh, a visitor to Argentina was surprised to be met with rudeness across the whole country. Akshat Vaida, interesting name, said, people were rude everywhere I went, north, south, rural, urban, even national parks and remote areas like Torres del Paine in Patagonia. It was kind of absurd. Argentina. That surprises me too about Argentina. Some travelers noted that although they did not encounter downright rudeness on their holiday, they didn't sense the warmth from locals, which left a negative impression, such as in Greece. Wow. Baker explained the Greeks I ran across in the tourist areas weren't friendly, but I think their job contributed to their abruptness. Plus, it was during the garbage and public transportation strike. They probably were just in a bad mood. I don't think it had anything to do with you. Several forum posters highlighted bustling business center Hong Kong as unfriendly to tourists. An anonymous entry said, friendly is not on their radar, I don't think. That is not true. Hong Kong is exceedingly friendly. That's a shocking thing to me. A Norwegian holiday maker, Torsten Juntne, criticized Latvia after feeling like tourists wanted to exploit him. He said, it seemed to me that anywhere I went, there were some people trying to scam me or offer sexual services. Well, if you travel a lot, that's pretty much every country you go to. They're trying to take your money and offer sexual services. That's a lot of countries. All right. Oh, here we go. Why almost U.S. mainstream media are biased towards China, paint China as an evil communist country. I don't know why. That's unfortunate. The idea of communist, you have to understand American culture. Over the last 70 years, communist has been it's a four-letter word. You know, our culture has been fighting the term communist for all my life, and it's not just. And people have a wrong idea of what communism is as opposed to socialism. They think it's all wrapped into one thing. And China's not even really a communist country. It's really a capitalist country with, as they say, Chinese characteristics. They call it the Communist Party, but it's really just a one-party system here. And it's not a socialist country. So it's just I think people just don't understand and have the wrong idea. And that's why. And American news sources are hit and miss. Many of them are very biased. Many of them are very fair. Unfortunately, the ones that bark the loudest and make the most noise are the ones that get the most attention. And that's unfortunate, but that's what you get with a free press. You have to pick and choose your battles. You have to understand that, okay, this one's got a certain agenda, and this one has another agenda, and the great thing, the one thing about American media is that you have to take in information from all sources and then make your own opinion about what's really going on. All media sources, I don't care where you're from, what country you're from, are going to be biased in one way or another. It's up to you to decipher your own opinion from what you read. Okay, let's see. The friendliest countries. By far, the friendliest place I've ever been to is Iceland. I haven't been there. I've heard great things about Iceland. Everyone seemed really happy to have us there. Italy, Iceland, and Canada repeatedly praised for their friendly approach to tourists. Interesting. Yeah, so there's Italy again, and Canada. Of course, I've been to Canada, and the Canadians are extremely friendly. They're wonderful. Canada's a great place, guys. Jack Williams explained, but by far the friendliest place I've ever been to is Iceland. Everyone seemed really happy to have us there. People were excited to tell us about their country and the history. Yeah, it's a kind of the new hotspot, Iceland, for tourism, and I've heard great things. Several travelers highly rated Canada for its warmth. Baker said the friendliest people are in Canada. They are, with rare exception, friendly and warm. Yeah. And exceedingly polite. You know, they have a stereotype of being super polite, and that stereotype came from somewhere. Stephen Taylor added, Toronto, Ontario is by far the happiest and friendliest large city I think I've ever visited. Toronto is pretty great city. I love that town. Even folks working in what I would call pretty abysmal jobs, like at the Tim Hortons at Toronto Airport, seem to be pretty even-tempered and happy. That's great. What about Italy? I don't know why this is printed out wrong. Agree. I have a lot of fun watching TV hosts trolling Fox News. I'll say this. I think Fox News is the worst. I have a lot of friends and family that watch Fox News, so I watch it, so I know how they're talking about, because they come with, when I debate with my friends and family about politics and economics, they come out of left field with all these random things that I've never heard of anywhere else. So I tend to watch Fox News and laugh at the absurdity of it as well. There is some programming on Fox News that is legitimate, but you know, their commentators are just so outrageous. But then the pendulum swings to the other side when you have MSNBC, and even CNN in little ways has kind of gone that way. So you really have to take it with a grain of salt. Toronto just won the NBA championship. Yep, they did. Go Canada. Canada, good for them. I'm actually very happy that they won the NBA championship. There are many Hong Kong people, not me, who are unfriendly to Chinese tourists. I don't know. Look, I live in mainland China, and many of my friends here in mainland China feel as though they get mistreated when they go to Hong Kong. That's the feeling that they have. They've told me that. I haven't seen it personally. And when I am in Hong Kong, I've never heard any Hong Konger speak any ill will towards a mainland Chinese person. So I can't comment on it personally because I've never seen it. But I have heard from my local Chinese friends here in mainland that they don't always feel welcome in Hong Kong by the Hong Kong people. That's a very interesting. We can talk about Hong Kong real quick. I mean, everyone knows what's going on in Hong Kong, and today they postponed the bill, you know, for a later date. You know, it's basically they're going to talk about it later, and I won't talk about what's right or wrong. It's not my place, especially as a guest in mainland China. So I definitely have my opinion about it, but I'm not going to share it on this forum. But what I will say is this: is when I was in university, I got my master's degree in leadership and management, and a big part of that was in change management, which is a really interesting field of study, change management theory. And there was a lot of case studies and organizations looking to make big changes. And we're talking about big corporate organizations or even government agencies looking to make big changes. And how do you go about doing that without losing productivity or money or losing your mind, right? So what you have many methods, and there's many consultants out there that specialize in change management theory, and they make a ton of money doing this. So how do you go about doing this? Okay, so obviously Hong Kong is going through a big change. It's inevitable. Hong Kong is part of China, and China will eventually look to make some changes, as they already have. to the city. I mean, you got the new bridge, you got the high-speed rail going directly into Kowloon Bay, and it is China. It's just a different government system. And what I think people are going to see happen is you're going to start seeing a melding of Hong Kong with the rest of mainland China. And of course, that's what the Chinese government wants, and the Hong Kong people are a little resistant to that. So what's going to happen is going to be very interesting. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what should happen, but I do know that this is going to be a very fascinating flashpoint in geopolitical economics, from that standpoint, and looking at it from a change management case study. Because I think over the next 30 years, as these changes happen, whether it be incremental changes or they fall asleep one night and wake up the next morning and all the berries are down, how is that going to look? How is that going to take place? Will it ever take place, or will it forever just be an SAR? Nobody knows. So I think it's fascinating from a change management case study, and I just want to watch it happen, you know, because you've got a lot of people in both Hong Kong and in mainland China who are a hell of a lot smarter than I am, who are working these problems out. And I just want to see what the decisions are, because hundreds of years from now, people are going to be studying this stuff at university about the decisions that are made and what happens and how it all ends up in the end. So that's my projection and my opinion about everything going on. Hong Kong will be just one of 1,000 cities in China at the very end. I think that's what they want it to be, but it's different now. It can't just wake up and be like a Shenzhen or a Guangzhou tomorrow. It's gonna have to. It's so vastly different, the two cities. So it's gonna have to find some kind of equilibrium over time, and how they get there is going to be a fascinating series of events to watch. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know. You know, if you look at Shenzhen, they got a greater GDP than Hong Kong right now, so they're obviously doing something right there. But Hong Kong is a very different type of economy and a very different type of society, and completely. And how you're going to merge those, it's going to be very interesting. Hello, are you guys still protesting on the street? I don't think anyone's protesting on the street anymore. In Hong Kong, yeah, it was a crazy week there, wasn't it? I saw the video. But the Hong Kong government kind of just postponed it indefinitely, and wanted everything to calm down. There's one thing that nobody wants anyone to get hurt, and that's the most important thing here. Voice your opinion, but nobody wants anyone to get hurt. And I think I think everyone just wanted to calm their nerves, and will continue to discuss it in the future. Hoping someday more and more Americans like you are more open and understand China and its culture, so that we can befriend no war, only peace. I agree. I think the vast majority of Americans don't understand China as well as I don't. I definitely didn't understand China when I first came, and I've been here for many years, and I still am learning about China. It is such an interesting place, because it was so closed off from the rest of the world for so long. So it allowed all of these misconceptions and stereotypes to fester in different parts of the world. And really, the only people who truly know it are the people who come and live here and experience it. And that is not something you can do in a month traveling around. It's not something you can do in 3 years, obviously. So it just takes a long time, because it is such a different place and a completely different mentality of the way things are. I'm not saying one is better than the other, or one is worse than the other. It's just different. And the more you understand that, the more you can work together. And I honestly believe, instead of running away from each other, everyone should be running towards each other. And that's the solution, I believe, to all of these problems. There are a lot of nasty and small-minded Canadians in Toronto and Vancouver. Maybe. I was only there for a couple of days. I thought the city was beautiful. I thought the people were friendly. I had a great time in Toronto. Wonderful city. I thought it was great. Majority Hong Kong people not protest on the street. About 200,000 people protest, but mainstream media said they're over 1 million. I don't know how many. Okay, 200,000 to 1 million. Who knows? I saw news reports saying that there were a couple 100,000. I saw news reports there were 1 million. Nobody's out there actually counting. All I know is that the aerial shots from look like massive crowds, and they were obviously making a lot of noise and getting a lot of attention, and they got what they wanted out of it. I know many people were hurt, including police officers, and that's very, very unfortunate. And I don't think we want that anymore. So I think it just needs to be talked about and discussed a little bit more before they move forward with a vote. You know, um, make people understand it. Um, Greetings from Mexico. Buenos dias or buenos noches for me. Great. What part of Mexico are you from? Oh, I remember you. USA should really stop interfering with ongoing. Okay. All right. I don't think America got involved with the Hong Kong protests. Donald Trump didn't say anything about it. The State Department didn't say anything about it. I think the American people have a lot of opinions about it. You saw that on the news, pundit shows, and everything. But that's the way Americans are. They're going to voice their opinion. They didn't get involved in all. It was the Hong Kong people that did it all. Hi, buddy. Just woke up in Texas. Good to see you here. Hello. What part of Texas are you, dude? I spend a lot of time in Texas. I know Texas well. Well, just like Occupying Wall Street movement, a few people made huge noises. Yeah, that's right. Occupy Wall Street. I actually was in New York when that happened. And I was in New York and Washington, D.C. during the Occupy Wall Street movement. And it got a lot of news because there were a lot of tents in front of a big bank. But there were no more than maybe 15, 20 tents. And when I was there, they had the protests and everything. You look at it from a distance and it almost just seemed as though they had the same amount of media people with cameras equal to the amount of protesters who were actually there. I mean, it's the media's job to sensationalize things. I mean, that's what they do, you know? So I didn't find it a big deal. When I was in Washington, D.C., and I saw the Occupy Washington folk out there, it didn't seem like it was a big deal. You know, it was on the news every day. So if you're, Joe the plumber in random city America and you see it on the news every day, you think it's some big deal. And it wasn't. It was a very small deal. They just had a very loud voice, and they were calling attention to something that they felt very passionate about, and that's what they do, So good for them, I think, Houston. I know Houston well. But it was on the news media all day long. Of course it was. It was exciting. I was watching it on the news. It's interesting. It's the news of the day. Am I too late to get a uni job for the fall, going to work on cover letter, etc. this weekend? That's a good question. If you want a university job teaching English, I'm assuming, you can still get jobs. Most of the hiring has been done already. The hiring season, they like to get everything ready to go before the summer holiday, because during the summer, most of the administrators take off, and they get it all set, and they use the summer as processing visas, and they get you out here 2 weeks to a month before classes actually start. But there are still plenty of jobs out there in universities and middle schools, and there's always hiring to do, because many of the hires will fall through and they have last minute demands and needs. Trump, of course, gave his advice to Hong Kong Chinese government on Twitter as usual. Screw that guy. Do they hire in the winter? Yeah, they hire all season long. And yes, they do hire for second semester for the spring term. So what ends up happening is there's many different hiring seasons, but you look at it in terms of terms, because there's going to be attrition for teachers, and some of the teachers that come here are going to do a term and they're going to like it and they're going to leave, or for one reason or another, maybe they find another job and they move on. So there's always people coming and going. In the middle of the term, things slow down, but it's always a good idea to get your resume out there, get your cover letters ready to go, get your recommendations, have all your paperwork ready, and just go for it. Apply all the time, network, get your name out there, get your name in front of people. so that if a need does come up, they remember you. So don't look at it if you have a window of applying. Do it now, and you'll be surprised. There's so many gigs out there. Some of them start immediately. Some of them start in 6 months. Some of them want your name for potential employment a year from now. So always be on the search. Always be putting your name in front of people. That's my best advice to you. By the way, you were right. Some of those English teachers are non-native English-speaking people. Yes, I know. I'm very aware. It happens to me all the time. Even here in Zhongshan, I was at McDonald's a week ago, and a very nice gentleman came up to me. He was a great guy, and but he was from a European country that is non-native, and his English was a little broken, but it wasn't bad. He was a very nice guy, but he was trying to inquire about some work. I told him, look, you can't do that. I can't lead you in that direction. I'm sorry. And he's like, yeah, nobody can. So I feel like every week, every 2 weeks, I meet a newcomer, not just in this city, but in any city I'm in, who is here looking for work. And they're always looking, maybe they have a primary job that doesn't pay them very much, and they're always looking to augment that work. And they're looking to do it illegally, and they're always hitting me up, and I keep telling them, you can't do it. Don't do it. Why US? Okay. By the way, okay. What's your comments on expats who live in their own bubble? If they want to do that, that's fine. I mean, many expats do. I mean, even I have an expat bubble. I have my expat friends that we get together and go have lunch together, and they're all English teachers, and we mostly talk about work and talk about life in China, and we go have some beers together, and it's very normal. But it's good to mix that with the local community. I'm kind of lucky because I live in a neighborhood where there's none expats. It's a Chinese, kind of a blue collar neighborhood. So most of the people I meet at the supermarket or at the gym or just going about my daily life are Chinese, because there is no expat bubble where I live. But if I go downtown, there are certain bars and certain restaurants where I know that they hang out and they're in their little bubble, and that's fine. Let them be. I have no problem with that. If that's your comfort level, great. But I always try to encourage them to get out of it a little bit, because oftentimes when you're in that bubble, you sell yourself short about life in general. You don't want to have just one little bubble. You want to have a more diverse experience here, because otherwise you're just going to see life here as us and them. And it isn't like that. Life is so much more colorful than that. So that's my advice. Get out of your bubble if you can. Why US leaders are so arrogant, like Pompeo and Bolton always wanted war and regime change everywhere. I have no comment on that. I don't disagree with you. I liked Obama personally. So, yeah, I'm not a politician. I am a citizen of America, so I do have my opinions, but where I'm at now, I pretty much have to keep my opinions to myself, which is fine. No problem. Where can I send my CV to the university where you work? I want to work as a Spanish teacher. We don't have Spanish language teaching at my university. It's only English. And most universities are only English. If you want to teach Spanish, which is great, I think Spanish is I have many Chinese students who also speak Spanish. Yo se hablo español un poco. And I know many of them that I speak to them, in my broken Spanish. And I know it's a growing demand for Spanish, because a lot of Chinese business people are doing business with Latin America. And that's a growing market for Chinese exports. So especially in Mexico, but all of South America, really all of South America. And of course, if you speak Spanish, Portuguese is right around the corner. It's very simple. And Brazil's a very hot topic as well. So of course, Macau right next to me. And the bigger universities, the bigger public universities, just go to their website, Google it. Google what are the largest universities in China, things like Sun Yat-sen University or Hunan University. I mean, there's so many giant universities here that have foreign language, looking for all kinds of foreign language teachers. French, Spanish, Italian. Arabic is another big one. A lot of African languages. Persian is another one. Excuse me, Farsi is another one. All of these. So if you want to teach Spanish, go to the large universities. My college here is a very small college. It's an engineering college, and the English department is very small. Let's see. I saw some vloggers who are working in China with quite obvious Eastern European accents. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've mentioned it before. It's a very well-known secret here in China. But you can, again. I've misspoke about this in the past. If you're from Eastern Europe, there still can be an English teacher. You just have to have a degree from an English teaching country. And there's one or two other way. Go to China Teacher. He's a smaller vlog, but he's very good. I mean, his videos are very high end. He puts a lot of work into it. He's got a lot of videos on how non-native speakers can find work in China. There are ways to do it. I'm not an expert on that, so I have misspoken about that. The biggest one is to have a degree from an English-speaking country, and then you can qualify for a Z visa. But again, you have to get those degrees authenticated in the country that you got it from. So there might be some traveling involved with that. It's not an easy process. It's not an easy process if you're a native speaker. It's really hard. Yeah. Okay. Nelly says, university teaching is part of contract faculty, hard to come by. Yeah, the biggest reason why it's hard to come by to be a contract faculty like me is because you're essentially working for the government. And so the government really checks every box and triple checks every piece of paperwork. So you have to be 100% in line with everything, or you're not going to get the gig. So, and there are people at the university that help you with this stuff. There's a girl here at my college that is very good at helping me with all that paperwork, because it is a lot. And she's very good at ensuring that everything is perfect, 100%. And of course, because the laws change every year, she is very knowledgeable about that. And without her, I'd be lost. I really would. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it on my own. So contact the university, apply, get your name out there, and go from there. Someone's got to take the job. Why not you? Really, LP, just teach English? No, you can teach other things. I mean, you don't have to teach. There are many people who teach science. They teach history. They teach sports. I know some sports people, that teach tennis and basketball. So there's lots of opportunity here. The door is open. You just have to jump through the hoops to get there. Yeah, I usually have higher recruiting standards. Here's the thing. The recruiting standards are the exact same as any other Z visa. It's just that private companies are a little bit looser when it comes to checking all the boxes, because they're not audited. They're audited very randomly. Whereas if you work for a public school or a public entity, they're audited constantly. And so that's it. They just want to ensure everything is as easy as possible to get through those audits and make sure everything is 100% legal. So the standards are the same. It's just the hoops are a little bit higher, if you know what I mean. Thanks for the info. I really appreciate it. Keep working with Spanish. I will try. My Spanish has really gone downhill in the last few years. I used to live in Southern California, so I've learned a little bit of Spanish, not only that, but through my family as well. But just like my Chinese, my Spanish is really crap. I'm really not very good at foreign languages, which is kind of terrible that I'm an English teacher, and I'm very good at English. I'm exceedingly good as an English teacher, but when it comes to foreign languages, it's actually really hard for me to learn them. And I actually think that gives me a little bit of empathy when it comes to my students who are trying to learn English and struggling with it, because I know how hard it is. So maybe that makes me a better English teacher, the fact that I realize how hard it really is to learn a foreign language. Um, I haven't heard that. I do have a BA in TEFL and 20 years teaching sports. Should be fine. I think a BA and a TEFL are all that are required right now. As well as you need, I think, 2 years teaching experience, at least 2 years. You have 20 years teaching sports. It's fine. That's a 20 years of teaching experience of any subject is great. I think, you know, a lot of teachers here now are getting the CELTA. The CELTA is becoming the standard now, especially if you have an online TEFL. It's not going to do you any good. I mean, the employers are going to look at an online TEFL. Yeah, that's what they need for the Z visa. But employers are going to look at that and say, you really have no real certification. The online TEFL is really not worth anything. You need an in-class TEFL. I highly recommend the CELTA. The CELTA is becoming the standard and the base standard for most jobs. I see many of the new teachers coming here armed with a CELTA. It's a lot of work and it's a pricey thing, but get it because it really does prepare you well. It's a wonderful program. But now that everyone's becoming a CELTA, you need to go to the next level above it to make yourself stand out. The next level above that is a Delta, which is a hell of a lot more study and more money and more time. So it's an ongoing process. So you can start with a TEFL, get an in-class TEFL with some in-house teaching hours, then try and see and get a job. And while you're here, work on your CELTA or get a CELTA and then come. And while you're here, then you can work on the PGCE or the International Baccalaureate or any of these other teaching credentials from your home country is a great idea. All of these things, the more you do, just you can never stop getting certifications. Keep going, keep getting them, keep making yourself better. My grandfather, a long time ago when I was a kid, I had this discussion with my grandfather. He told me, Paul, in the 1950s, you graduate from high school and you go get a job and make a great living for the rest of your life. 25, 30 years later, Paul, you go to high school, then you go to college, you get a BA and you can go get a job and make a good living for the rest of your life. It's not like that anymore. Read Thomas Friedman's book, The World is Flat, came out like 20 years ago. It's the best book I ever read and it scared the hell out of me because now with the advent of internet and rising emerging economies such as China and India, you're not competing with the person down the street for a job anymore. You're competing with the entire world. So it's a process of continuous improvement of yourself. If you're not doing that, if you just rest on your laurels and say, hey, I got a TEFL and a BA and experience, I'm good, you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to stand out. You have to continuously improve and get better, more credentials, more experience, more diversified experience in order to make yourself non-expendable, I guess, because there's always going to be someone else who's got more and is ready to take that job over you and probably do it for less money. So keep that in mind. Where am I here? Okay. I know my timing is bad being mid-June already. Again, don't think that. Their timing is not bad. It's never bad timing to put your name and your resume in front of people who are interested in that stuff. They're not just looking at resumes for 2 months out of the year. Their job is to look at resumes throughout the year because people come and go all the time. If you're an HR person, you are looking for the best people to fill these jobs, whether they open jobs or jobs that will be open in the future. Like all jobs will be open in the future. So put your name in front of people, make it stand out, develop a relationship if you can, network. Don't think, oh, it's bad timing, I'm not going to do it. No, do it now. Do it now. Do it always. Don't never stop. Even me, I have a wonderful job here and I'm very happy here. But even me, I'm out networking, I'm out making connections, and I put my resume in front of people because you never know. There's always something better out there. Or more interesting. I'm not going to be at this college forever, guys. Rich men in Shenzhen hire Philippines domestic helper because they think that those can help teach their children good English. That is true. And, the Filipinos speak good English. I mean, English is a national language there. It's a different kind of language, but so is the English in Singapore. So is the English in Australia. It's just another form of English. And the Filipinos are very smart. They're hardworking, and it's a good way. So not only do they get a nanny for their kid to help them with their homework, but they can also help them with their English. It makes sense to me. So I think I've said this before. I think there's a big hole in the market here that we're all capitalizing on because the demand is so high. But the Philippines is right there, and it's a wonderful resource for the Chinese government to tap to fill this void. And if I was the Chinese, I would do that. I would say, yeah, go to the Philippines and let's tap that resource. It's right there, and they want to help. And China and Filipino relations have been strained at times, but they really are getting really good. BEC, or because of US involving on war in so many countries, are you feel safe with your traveling? Absolutely. I'm a proud American. When I go places, I tell everyone I'm American and I'm from America. And I'm an old soldier too. I don't feel ashamed or embarrassed or unsafe. Again, no matter where you go, I've been in some very dangerous countries. And if you go there with the right attitude, you smile, you're friendly. People know that there's a difference between government policies and the people. Okay? Just like there's a difference between Chinese policies and the people. Just like there's a difference between European policies and the people. I'm just an average Joe, and I'm very friendly, and I see it as goodwill. If I can go there and shake someone's hand and smile and show them that I'm a friendly guy, regardless of what my country is doing as a whole, that doesn't. I think that's a good thing. I think more people need to do that. I'm not scared one bit. I don't know. A lot of good questions tonight, guys. Thank you. Can someone get an 8 to 10 month contract at a training center, etc., so I'd be free for the fall at a university? No. What you would do is you get a 1-year contract. All contracts are 1 year. All contracts in China are 1 year. And if you want to come now and get a job at a training center, you can do that. Some training centers will have you sign a 1-year contract, and if you say, "Hey, I only want 10 months," where you're not going to get a contract completion bonus or any kind of flight reimbursement or anything like that. If you tell them ahead of time you're going to be breaking the contract before the year is up, all you really need is 30-day notice to get out of a job and start a new job. I did that when I left the training center. I was at the training center for about 3 years, and I was in the middle of a contract, and I told them, look, I have to break this contract if I want to start in the term. And they were fine. They understood that that's what happens. And I had put many years in with the training center anyways. So they were very, very supportive of the decision and helped me out. So I would recommend either getting a job straight away at a university. And they hire there's someone here in Zhongshan at another university. I haven't met him yet, but I really want to. That got a job midterm as an English teacher. So there's always jobs available out there. So if that's your goal, go for that goal. If you want to come work at a training center, fulfill 1 year, sign another contract with the understanding, or another year with the understanding that you're going to be breaking that contract to go work at a university, they'll be fine with it. It's okay. Just make sure you're open and honest with your employer and say, look, this is what's happening in my life. This is what's going on, so that they can properly plan for their future. If you go there with false pretenses and say, yeah, I'll work for a year, and in your head, you're going to be gone in 6 months, that's not fair to them. That's how you burn your bridges, man. So don't burn your bridges. Be 100% open and honest with what you want and what your plans are. As my understanding, university job pay is fixed. It's not. Every university has a different compensation package. It depends on where their funding comes from, and it depends on the market. If you want to go work at a prestigious university like everyone, of course the pay will be lower. If you want to work in a more rural area or in a college that's not well known, that they struggle with hiring, they're going to pay a lot more. Know what I mean? So keep that in mind. Also, there's other things that have to do with just pay. You also have your apartment. You have time off. How many actual teaching hours and office hours are you required to do in your contract? There's so many factors that go into your overall compensation package. It's not, don't just look at your pay. There's a million other things. And ultimately, it comes down to what you want. What paperwork do I need to get working on? I'm not sure which background check is the one I need. You need well, if you're from the America, you need an FBI criminal background check. That can be time consuming. Um, there's different ways to do it. You go get your fingerprints taken at the local police station. Don't do that. Just go online, go to freefbireports.com, I think it is. They'll guide you through it. There are places where you can electronically scan your fingerprints and send it directly to the FBI. And if you expedite it with a little bit of extra money, you can get your FBI report back really quickly. When it comes to everything else, you obviously need your passport, right? You need copies of your transcripts. Not all, actually, you don't need copies of your transcripts anymore, but many, if you're going to go work at a university, many, they might want that. I have many copies of mine that are sealed and ready to go just in case someone wants it. So these are things that you get. Copies of your degrees need to be notarized. The notary needs to be authenticated, and then your degree needs to be apostilled by the Secretary of State of your home state in which your degree was issued in. That's for America. Keep in mind, all of this has to be then authenticated by the Chinese consulate in America. There's only a few of them. I was lucky because I'm from LA and there's a Chinese consulate there. But I got a buddy of mine who lived in Cleveland, had to go to New York to get all this done from the Chinese consulate there. So it is a process. It takes a lot of time. Don't think you can come here in 1 month and be ready to go. Give yourself a good 6 months to put all this together. With things going in the mail, things getting lost, getting the wrong stamp, the wrong paperwork, you're going to run into a lot of problems and you're going to be very, very frustrated. So give yourself a lot of time and be patient with it. It's not cut and dry. And again, the rules change often. But there are some standard paperwork you can get done now. Your FBI criminal background check, make sure your passport's good to go, and your degrees authenticated. Those are the big ones. Those really are. Don't have to be rich people. I know a family hired a girl Philippines as maid to take care of their daughter. The family was just well off. That's true. I mean, middle class people all throughout China hire people from all over the world for that reason. I mean, cost of living here is so cheap that, and what we would be considered middle class in America is rich here. But again, the cost of living is so low. So they really have a lot more disposable income to do things like this. Well off or just working class, middle class. Everyone really invests a lot of time into their children and their children's education. And of course, many families now are dual income families. And so it's just like any country, you need help with the children. I think they are rich because they pay much higher than that in Hong Kong. Really? I didn't know that. That's interesting. I always thought they would pay more in Hong Kong than they do in mainland China. I didn't know that. But your university is on the list of 980. I don't know what that is. What is the list of 985? I have no idea what that is. I mean, there's so many thousands of universities. You can get an online degree, and get that authenticated. What's this list of 985? I've never heard of that. There is one in Houston, luckily. Oh, there is. Great. Perfect. Then get to know it well because you'll be going there a lot. In your opinion, who's better, Republicans or Democrats on governance? Yeah, you're asking some crazy questions. I think you know the answer to that. Okay. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. Are you good or bad? Yeah. They both kind of suck. Some of them, there are good politicians in Republican Party. There are good politicians in Democrat, and then there are crappy ones in both as well. So I think as a whole, I don't care who's in charge. The government needs to get their act together. I'm sick and tired of nothing happening. I'm sick and tired of them yelling at each other and not doing anything. It's unfortunate. Things in America, we have democracy, so things will obviously run slower that way. And I wish they would speed things up. Well, depends on your definition of rich. Usually, those families have a couple hundred thousand of RMB income, but in China, $1 million income is nice. Well-off income, not rich. It also depends on where you live. I mean, if you're making, let's say, a million RMB in a third-tier city, you're doing very well. But if you make a million RMB in Guangzhou or Shenzhen, you are just doing okay. I mean, the cost of living, it's just like in any country, guys. If you live in the capital or the big tech center, of course you're going to pay a shit ton more money for housing and for everything, education. But if you live in a quiet countryside, like in America, if I live in New York or San Francisco, I don't think I could afford to live there. Honestly, even if I had a really well-paying job, I would be very unhappy with what I can afford. That's why I would live in a place like Wyoming or South Dakota. It's prettier and you can actually afford. I mean, hell, you can afford land, in those places. And then F5 is like the Chinese version of Ivy League. Really interesting. You have to tell me more about that. I'm not familiar with it. A 985. I didn't know that. I don't know anything about that. Did you ever look into teaching English in any Latin American countries? I talked about it with a person who was down there, because I was definitely interested in obviously Mexico, and I would love to work on my Spanish more. Um, I've never been to South America, so I don't know it. The furthest south I've been is Mexico, and I love Mexico, and I would definitely go there. But there's no money in it. It's you the money, the places that pay the most are the rich countries. China, then a lot of Arab countries. These are the places that have money, or they're growing economies, and they pay English teachers well. I don't think the demand for English in Latin America is as high as it is in Asia right now. Maybe it will change in the future. I hope it does. But that, again, that's teaching English. You can teach anything anywhere, really. Okay. All great questions, guys. Tell me more about 985. I don't know what that is. All right. Stephen Taylor said that while in Turkey, Turks were eager to talk to me and my American friends. I remember one restaurant owner in Istanbul who bought his young brother and sister over to our table to meet a couple of Americans and practice their English. The kids, to me, seemed to be in awe of us. Oh, that's cute. I love the kids here in China are great. Even if I just get into an elevator, some of them are a little scared of me, but others just come right up to you and just want to, hi, where are you from? They're amazing. And I have been to Turkey, and I loved Turkey. I loved Istanbul. I got some great stories from Istanbul. Popular tourist hotspots in Mexico and Brazil were also rated highly by tourists. Again, I haven't been to Brazil. I've heard mixed things about Brazil, but I love Mexico. Every time I go to Mexico, I have a grand time. The people are really rich. Um, Maybe not rich in that sense, but they're very warm and friendly. I love Mexico. I don't think I've ever met a rude or inconsiderate Mexican in my life. Yeah, and if any country has a reason to be hostile towards Americans, it would be Mexico, noted Taylor. Well, lately maybe, Discussing recent Olympic host nation Brazil, Alejandro del Moral shared, they are the most generous, caring, loving, smiling people on earth. They are beautiful souls. You can get invited to dinner at their homes, walking on the street. You can start chatting with anyone. Here's the thing about that. You always hear people saying, oh, I got invited to dinner on the street. Don't do that. Don't go to some stranger's house. I don't care what country you're in, and have dinner with them. You always hear, I see this in vlogs, I hear stories about it, but what you don't hear is some of the gnarly stuff that also happens with that. You wouldn't do that in many places. Some stranger on the street says, hey, come to my house for dinner. You might think you're being adventurous and everything, but I honestly think that goes against every sense of safety. It goes through my mind. Now, if you met this person and you develop a rapport with them, and over the course of some time you develop a friendship, by all means, go to their house and do that. But just randomly on the street, hi, American, you come to my house for dinner. It's ridiculous. Would never do that. I have gone into some tea houses and coffee shops. I'm walking down the street. American, come have tea with me. And they sit down right there and you have tea and you talk. That is wonderful. That is great. But I wouldn't go to some village or something, to some stranger's house and have dinner with them unless I have some kind of rapport with them. Yeah, Mexicans definitely don't like Trump. It's obvious, obvious reasons. I don't blame you. I find dating culture is very different here in the U.S. Yes, it is much, much different. Jack, you're Chinese, but you're living in Boston, right? Was it Boston? Where are you? Where are you, Jack? What part of the United States? Was it Boston? I can't remember, man. I'm sorry. But yeah, dating culture in America is much different than it is anywhere else in the world, really. Just like any country has a different dating culture. Loads of Mexicans in Texas like Trump. That's because they're on the American side. Don't get look. I have a lot of Mexican blood in me, and many of my family love Trump, but they love him for different reasons. It's not a racial thing. And then I have many Mexican friends who in America that hate Trump for obvious reasons. Everyone has their reasons. What's your opinion on Trump's question? Is he the great president or worst president? He's not a great president, I don't think. He's very arrogant. He's not my favorite president. No way. I'm on the record of saying I liked Obama. I think Obama was great. He was cool. He was statesmanlike. You can disagree about his policies. You can disagree about some of the things he did and some of the actions that he took. Fine. But at least he was a good standard bearer of civility. And that's what I miss in my president. Trump has done a lot of crazy things. There's a couple things that he has done that I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But they're few and far between. But his hostility and the way he goes about treating people is not what I want in my president. I'm tired of trying to defend him when I can't. I can't defend what he says. I don't like talking about politics on here, guys. Sorry. Well, if you ask a question, I'll answer it to the best of my ability. That's not my thing. What's Meten like? I saw your other video and want to know more. Well, what do you want to know? I'd be happy. I like Meten. I thought Meten, it's a training center. It's similar to any other training center, one of the bigger ones, Wall Street English. Meten is just another brand of it. It's a growing brand. They're very progressive. In my experience, they treated me very well. I have many friends there still today. They're like a family for me there. That's why I enjoy Meten. But if you want specifics, go ahead and ask. I'll be happy to answer them for you. I think Trump has a bad personality, but I think his work is pretty good. They are separate. I have a different opinion about his work. What he did in business and real estate doesn't necessarily translate to governing. People say we need a businessman in the White House because we need to run the country like a business. No, you don't. A business is completely different from a government. A government should not be a for-profit thing. It's core American culture, right? And I don't think we need a businessman there. I think we need a statesman as our president. It's my personal opinion. This message held for review. Ooh, interesting. Project 95. I'll take a look at that, Peter. Thanks for sending that over. Project 985 University. I'm going to research that more and find out more for you, man. That's pretty interesting. Do you know India just put tariffs on American goods? The trade war is still expanding. I didn't know that. Yeah. It's unfortunate, guys. I think any kind of war is bad. I think you ought to, again, instead of running away from each other, we need to be running towards each other. We need to be working together, prospering together. Here's the thing with Huawei, okay? If Huawei is a legitimate security concern, I get it, but I'm not buying that 100%, because if governments want to spy on people in their phones. There's ways to do that. It doesn't matter where the technology comes from. They have the technology in their own world to do it. Trust me, they can do it no matter who's supplying the actual equipment. That's why I don't buy the security thing. However, if Huawei has something that can better the American economy, why not use it? Why not embrace it and build off of it rather than being left behind? And the same thing goes with other countries. And the same thing goes with China. If another country has a technology or something that China can benefit from, why ban it? Why not run towards it? Why not embrace it, partner with it, build on it? That's what free trade is all about, and that's how you prosper. It's at least what I've read in my limited economics education. What is the best route to work at adult training center? Recruiter? No. Go directly to the center itself. If you go through a recruiter or an agent, they have a bad reputation. They're going to take your money. They're going to place you where they want to place you. Some are legitimate, some are really good, but honestly, if you want to work at a training center, go to the large training centers, the nationalized ones here, not the nationalized, but the ones that are national here. Those are the big ones. Just Google the top training centers in China and you'll see what I mean. Go directly to their website, submit your resume directly at their website and talk to their in-house recruiters. That's the best way to do it. They're not, it's also the way that the training centers prefer it. The training centers don't want to work with agents and recruiters because then they have to pay agency and recruiter fees. So they have, all the major training centers have in-house recruiters, or they incentivize their existing staff to help recruit. And that's the way the training centers want to hire because it's more cost effective for them. And it's better for you because then you're working directly with the center itself. And you can determine if it's a place you want to work, a place you don't, people that you want to work with. So that's my advice. Go directly to the center if you want to work at a training center. And that's the same thing with a university. If you want to work at a university or a middle school or kindergarten, go directly to the recruiting centers of those places. Just Google it. I mean, there's lists of them on Wikipedia, and they have links to their websites. Most of their websites have an English page. Click on the English and look at career centers and submit your resume. Even if they don't have an open job for teacher for the subject that you want to teach, submit it anyways with a cover letter, because God knows that those websites aren't 100% up to date, and you never know. You should constantly be throwing it out there and putting your name out there. Thank you. No more politics. I don't talk about this. Thanks, man. Thank you for being a sport and answering all kinds of questions. It's great. It's fun. It's interesting. I love having these debates. And of course, if you disagree with me, please tell me and chat with me. I love debates, and I'm the first one to admit that I'm constantly on the wrong side of history when it comes to this stuff, as my as my colleagues will attest to. There are a lot of recruiting video clips on YouTube. You can contact them. Yeah, there are a million of them. But again, just go to the website, submit your resume directly to the school itself. They have a lot of online resumes that you throw it up online. They have emails, you can email an in-house recruiter directly. That's the best way to go. Sorry, did you try Rogaine before? No, I'm just losing my hair. I've always had a big forehead, and they shaved my head when I was in the service, and I kind of got used to it. When I came back from the service, I tried to grow it out again. I had hair for a long time, but then it just starts receding. I'm 40, guys. It happens when you get older, and I got a little bald spot here too. I embrace it. I don't bother with it. I don't mind being bald. I think I look better bald. And I'm not completely bald. I always keep a little bit of fuzz up there. It's one of the cool things about being a dude is I don't have to worry about it. It doesn't bother me, and it doesn't affect my confidence or anything like that. I see so many people everywhere I go with horrible comb overs and they try to comb their hair forward and they try to do a faux hawk. Even I tried the faux hawk for a little bit too, to try and hide the losing of the hair. It's not worth it. Just embrace it. Either embrace the fact that you're bald and go with it. Again, if you're confident about your looks, that's all you care about. Well, I am in the telecom business for more than 2 decades. 5G is much more secure than 4G. I hear great things about 5G. Again, I think 5G is going to be awesome. Everything I've been I'm not a tech guy. I don't know everything, but everything I've been reading about it, I get the feeling like it's going to change the world. This coupled with AI and automation, it really is going to change it's going to be a giant leap forward in in lifestyle, I guess. I'm really kind of excited about it. I think 5G is going to be awesome. I'm really excited. Those video clips seem to be oriented to young kids just out of colleges, since those guys and girls or videos are very young. Well, that's the younger guys and girls that are right out of college. Those are the ones that, taking a gap year. They haven't established themselves yet in a career. They haven't bought a house. They're not married. So those are the ones that are easy to recruit to come overseas because they're looking for adventure. They're looking for something new. And so that's why they're oriented towards it. To find people my age who are not married and don't have kids is a rare thing. I mean, if I were married or if I had a kid, even if I was divorced with a kid, I wouldn't be in China. I'd be at home taking care of business. But that was a conscious decision I made years ago to not do that so that I can, I have a different path in life essentially. And so I'm rare when it comes to that. So recruiters don't look for my demographic. They're looking for the younger demographic. Makes sense. If I was a recruiter, I'd do that too. Is it hot in Guangdong now? Yes, it is very hot and humid, hence my cold. It has been raining with very, very gnarly. I like the rain, but it's not good if you have a cold. Today was actually really beautiful, but it is hot. The weather is similar to South Florida. So I'm going to be going to Southeast Asia this summer in August. I'll be in Thailand and Cambodia in August, which is the tail end of the rainy season, and it should be very hot. I'm looking forward to it. Bring it. I don't mind sweating. He's bald and still married. Yeah. Yeah. Do you think he cares that Jayo Nation? Great guy. Love his vlogs, man. He's freaking awesome. That guy. He's got a great attitude. And many guys, when they turn my age, are bald. If you're not my age, it'll happen to you too, probably. An open-minded person like you should run for U.S. president, not a crazy one. I'm not crazy enough to run for U.S. president. I wouldn't want the job, and I'm not smart enough for that. I'm quite happy living my quiet little life where I'm at. There's so much. The race for president is going to be very interesting. There's a lot of very interesting people running. The debate is coming up soon. I'm very excited for the Democratic debate. There's some like 20 people going to be on it, and it's such a diverse crowd. You have guys like Biden who have been politicians for many decades, and you have this entrepreneur. He's a I think he's from Taiwan. His family's from Taiwan, but he's an entrepreneur. He seems got some really crazy ideas. Some of them are kind of make sense to me. Then you got that Mayor Pete guy. He's what 37 years old, mayor of a small town where Notre Dame is actually. What is that? South Bend, Indiana, right? He's an articulate dude. I think he's got a lot of good things to say. And you got an author, some author lady who's in the running. You got Elizabeth Warren, who's been a senator, but was a university professor, I think at Harvard, for a long, long time. So it's a very diverse crowd. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Mayor Pete is interesting, yeah. He's so articulate. I think he's still developing. Any chances for Pete? That's it. Buttigieg. I've been watching a lot of video of him, and I know he's got a book out too that I should probably read. I've been impressed with him. And when people say, "Oh, he's so young, he has no experience," and he just comes right back at it, well, I got more at, you know, more government experience than the current president. You're like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah. So, but I think he's got the right attitude, and he's definitely civil. That's what I like about him. And then you got this Asian guy. What God? I can't remember his name. Yang? No. Oh, God, I can't remember his name. He's the guy who wants the universal basic income. That's his platform. Is he's talking about automation and how it's going to change the world, and this is going to be, and nobody else is talking about. So everyone's really scared. No one's scared about automation, but he's trying to scare people about it, and he makes a lot of sense about what he's talking. He seems like a very articulate guy. He knows what he's talking about. His ideas are so radical for an American culture. There's no way people will buy it, but that doesn't mean he's wrong. And I've been reading about this guy a lot. It's very, very interesting. I like Tulsi. I don't know Tulsi. Who's Tulsi? I don't think Andrew Young got a chance. I don't think he's got a chance either. But I like that he's talking about these things and nobody else is. So I find him very interesting. I don't like his politics either. A bit too sci-fi, maybe. For world peace, Tulsi's the one. That's another thing. Okay, so Astro. Here's something that you don't hear from politicians anymore: is world peace. Especially post 9/11 in America, everyone talks about keeping us safe. Um, the war on terrorism was a big deal 15, 20 years ago, right? And nobody talks about finding world peace, especially in today's government or any government. Well, some governments do it, I guess. But isn't that what we all want? Don't we want world peace? I know it's hard to sell F-35s and tanks and M16s when you're promoting world peace. But I think it'd be really cool if we could find a politician that has that as their platform. Damn, there's a lot of politics here tonight, guys. I don't know if I can post this after this. Okay. She is a Hawaiian congresswoman. Okay, cool. Tulsi. I'll look her up. Is she going to be in the debate? There's a lot of people that I have no idea who they are, and I'm looking forward to learning more about them. Interesting. Young does not stand a chance. Now Joe and Bernie are leading in the polls. You never know. I mean, everyone said Donald Trump didn't have a chance, and look where he's at. So you never know. When Obama first started running, back in the day when he was still a senator, he was very low in the polls, and look what happened. So you never know. It's so early, guys. But I do agree with you. I don't think Yang is a little too progressive for an American culture. There's no way he's gonna be able to sell a universal basic income to the majority of Americans. There's a lot of people out there that are talking about it. And in Alaska, they do it, and they call it a dividend. But it doesn't mean he's wrong, and it doesn't mean the ideas aren't bad. It just means they're new, and I like that people are talking about it. Okay, guys, I've been on for an hour and a half, and my throat is killing me, and I probably said way too much tonight and talked too much politics. It's tough to not talk about politics in a politically charged world, and it's also can be a little dangerous for me being a guest in mainland China to talk politics, but I try not to talk about Chinese politics. I did talk about Hong Kong a little bit, but again, I leave my opinions to myself when it comes to that. I think it's fascinating what's going on there, and I honestly hope that no matter what happens there, that nobody else gets hurt. And I like to see people voicing their opinions on both sides. And again, these are changes that are happening in the world that we're all going to be living through, and I hope it ends peacefully for everyone. So that's what I hope. Do you use Quora? No, I don't know what Quora is. I think that's like an online questions answering thing or something. When it comes to American politics, I'm happy to talk about it because I'm an American. It's not only my right but my responsibility. So I'm happy to answer, give my opinions on those. Um, any last questions? If not, I'm gonna call it a night, guys, because I'm tired and I'm still working on my cold. So again, I apologize for no more videos. I have some videos coming out this week. They're shot, ready to go. I just got to edit them and put them in. More substance related. For the next 3 weeks, they're going to be very substance related kind of videos, and then I start traveling again. So you're going to see a lot more travel videos from me this summer. Until then, hasta luego, and thanks for watching, guys. Take care.